Check 1, 2. Woo-hoo. How you guys doing? Good to see ya.
Oh my gosh.
Welcome to Boise Backstories, formerly Guitar Night.
Hey, that's my name.
Boise Backstories. Somebody was telling me that that sounds shady. Does that sound shady? Backstories?
It used to be a website with someone's name.
What was it?
I can't say it.
Oh, okay. Well, it's not written in stone yet, anyway. How you doing? I'm Junkyard Bob. And to my right, this young man is named Chris McIntire.
Hello. Nice to see you.
I'm going to give you a little bit of our backstories. And starting at the dog park, which is where I first met Chris. He has a beautiful German Shepherd dog named Casper.
Casper, yeah.
Love that name, Casper the Ghost. Is that from Casper the Ghost?
It is not. It's actually named after a best friend.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're going to have to speak into the mic.
Into the mic.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
All right. No, it was named after a best friend. He was killed about 10 years ago. So,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I named it after him.
Okay. Anyway, so I just mind my own business, walking my dog, and Chris comes along, and I kind of overheard a conversation about his past and his journey into music. And that's all I'm going to say. Chris, tell me about it.
Actually, I think it was with Bill over there, Mr. Bill Sinker.
Sinking.
Sinking?
Sinking.
Sinker.
You guys come over here. You're part of this.
We're going to make him move up. No, I was actually talking to Bill about music because he's probably one of the better musicians that I know. I mean, yeah. No, this man played Black Magic Woman, every single part of it, vocals, guitar, everything, just by ear. So he's very, very good. But no, we were talking about music theory and just how music is structured. And Bill overheard, and turns out he's also into music.
He is. We call him Bicycle Bill because he rides his bicycle through the dog park every day.
Needs to get a dog, though.
He does. He definitely needs a dog. There's no such thing as a cat park.
But no, well, you want me to just get into...
Well, first of all, where are you from?
I'm originally from here. I'm from Boise. Mountain Home originally.
Mountain Home?
Yeah.
Okay. You're a homeboy.
Yes, Mountain Homeboy, Air Force brat.
All right.
Oh.
So your dad was in the Air Force?
Yes.
Okay. And is your dad a musical guy?
I think he enjoys music. I grew up listening to a lot of good music. Yeah, a lot of classic rock, a lot of country before it wasn't country, but yeah.
So what was... Now, I don't think that you started when you were young playing music, or did you?
No, I didn't. I think I played the trumpet in like 6th grade for a semester, and I hated it. Honestly, I did not get a taste for music and playing music until I was 30, which was 5 years ago. So I grew up with a lot of friends that were musically inclined. They all played in bands. I never understood it until I was 30. Something kind of clicked, and now you cannot get me away from the piano. So my neighbors are more than aware of that. Isn't that right, Kylie? Yeah. So she's my neighbor. Yeah. So it really wasn't until I was 30. I was living out in Texas in the middle of nowhere, and it's kind of interesting. So I left Boise in 2017, moved out to Texas for some work into the middle of nowhere, and I spent quite a bit of time just listening to my wind chimes, which, I've got a big five-foot pair of wind chimes, and just listening to them kind of in silence for about 4 years, all of a sudden made music make sense. Huh. So it's really interesting because the way that I see a piano is actually like a giant pair of wind chimes. So whatever key that you're playing in, those would be the kind of the tubes or the cylinders of the chime. and then you kind of just let your fingers or your mind move only through those and make music. I picked up a little bit of music theory during COVID, when everybody found a new hobby because there was nothing else to do.
Oh yeah.
So I just
me included.
Yeah, I went onto YouTube and just found a video on music theory. I listened to like the first 20 minutes. It was a 2-hour video. I listened to the first 20 minutes and shut it off, and then I kind of honestly I just figured everything else out from there. This is the. So I was living in the middle of nowhere for a long time, and I needed somewhere to put my stuff. So this is a storage unit map that I had, and I just wrote on the back of it all of the music theory, circle of fifths that I kind of just figured out, and this is the only thing that I played off of for like 3 years. It's a formulaic mathematical way of looking at how all of the keys sort of interlock in a pattern. And the way that my mind works is that's how I think is in shapes and patterns. So a lot of times when I'm playing, I'm just making different shapes in a mathematical way.
Yeah.
And that's just, yeah.
You're not going A, B, C, D, F, and G. You're just going...
Sometimes I will. Like a lot of times what I'll do when I go out to the piano is, really there's 24 different notes or keys that you could potentially make. And so I'll just sit and go through all of them until one feels right, and then there's mathematical interplay between all of the surrounding keys or the surrounding notes that go into that key. And so then I'll just kind of move through it, but not in a really structured way. I do it a lot like jazz, which, jazz sort of just meanders. It doesn't have a structure. It just kind of goes on endlessly. It doesn't resolve to anything. So whatever key it's in, it kind of just, you can play a same jazz song forever and ever and ever because it never is supposed to go anywhere. And
yeah,
that's kind of how...
Like you said, it doesn't resolve.
Yeah, it doesn't resolve. And that's what I like because if you ask me to play in time, I feel like I'm in prison and I don't like it. So really what I do is I'll just find a key that I like and all of the surrounding chords, and I'll just meander through it for 20 minutes, and I don't ever write anything down. I've always got little pieces and stuff that I kind of work off, but I've never really played the same thing twice.
Okay, in general, but didn't you tell me that you started playing certain movements by Beethoven or...
Yeah, actually, Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata is the very first song that I learned. Believe it or not, I was trying to learn Happy Birthday on the piano, and I couldn't get it right. And so I was like, well, I'll learn something else. And I was like, well, I like Beethoven, and I printed off the sheet music, and it's the first song that I learned from beginning to end, and I spent like 3 or 4 hours every single night for an entire month until I got it. Uh-huh. So now I kind of know it like the back of my hand, and I just kind of play it when I'm bored.
Well, that's the way it's done. It takes a lot of time.
Yeah, it really does.
A lot of alone time, And there's no way of getting around it.
I mean, I can play it if you want.
I would love to hear it.
Okay, yeah, great. Is that where we're going to start, is with Beethoven?
Let's start with Beethoven.
Okay, let's start with Beethoven.
Yo, bae.
I'm out of tequila now, so. Probably should not. Let me just get used to the keys for a second. My piano is brown, this one's different. All right, okay. I don't need this. I messed that part up, sorry. Jesus Christ. Let me start over, sorry.
It's all right.
You know, the most people I've ever played in front of is 2. Yeah. Here we go, let's see. We'll start over. That was called Mic Check. No, it's not done. 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 Let me start over, sir. All right, you know what? We'll warm up and we'll come back to that.
I can splice this together, no problem.
Yeah, that's fine. Beethoven's a little hard to open with, so.
That was beautiful.
Yeah, no, that's.
And dark.
Yeah, no, it really is. I learned that in the dead of winter, actually, so it kind of fits. But
I just imagine Beethoven sitting alone by himself, coming up with those changes and the mood that he must have been in, and realizing how beautiful it was.
Yeah, you know, it's really interesting because I studied his. I studied that piece of music for a really, really long time, and you really have to be a genius to write like that. So, and what's really difficult is it's actually very hard for me to play structured music. And that's kind of always been my challenge. Like, for the most part, like I said, I usually just go out and just kind of meander through music for hours and hours and hours without ever writing anything down. So writing something and playing something and learning something very structured actually has been a challenge, which is interesting because I think most musicians, that's how they learn, is through structure. And I never had a formal lesson or anything, so I guess that kind of makes sense.
Well, I'm curious still about what happened. What tripped the switch when you decided to focus on music theory?
You know, I really don't know. It just kind of came out of nowhere. I figured it may have been when I was younger learning through sheet music. I just didn't get it. I just didn't understand how the pieces fit together. I mean, I could follow it, but I didn't really understand it. And so I had always heard that the other 10% of musicians that play through music theory, I figured I would try my hand at that. And after 20 minutes, it just clicked.
Cool.
So, yeah. But I mean, I can just kind of meander through a key for a little while if you want. Or to me, the way that I see it, so the piano is laid out in a very linear manner, right? You have a start and an end. But in reality, the way that the music fits together is if this end of the piano here and this end of the piano here were like a circle. And so it really is just one continuous circle. And there's a continuous pattern that goes all the way around. And it's all very, very mathematical.
Speaking of circles, what's that little chart over there?
This chart, I don't use this very often. Like I said, I prefer my coffee-stained scrap paper that I've had for 3 years.
Let me see the chart.
Yeah, there you go.
Is that the circle of fifths?
That is a circle of fifths.
That's what we're talking about when we say circle of fifths.
So basically what it is it just shows you all the different interrelationships between all of the different keys. I mean, I could go through and play all of this without ever looking at this, just because it's a pattern. Once you understand the pattern, you don't have to look at this anymore.
Okay, do it.
Okay, what do you want?
Whatever it was you just said.
The pattern?
Yes.
Well, there's actually like 24 patterns that overlay over each other.
Okay.
So, I mean, okay, so let's lay it out this way. So every key in piano has 8 notes, right? So if you play a C, that's 8. And the way that you derive a chord from any scale is by taking the first, the third, and the fifth out of those 8 notes. So in one octave, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, pick the first, third, and fifth. And that's a C chord inside of the C scale. So that's very basic.
It's a C triad.
Yeah, C triad, which is interesting because I hear other musicians using words. I'm like, what does that mean? But I know how to play it. So, yeah, and that's called a major scale. And there's 2 different types of scales. There's a major scale and there's a minor scale. Major scale is more of like your uplifting, bright, happy, positive kind of sound. And there's a minor scale, which is sort of melancholy, sort of dark, and kind of sad.
I always thought it was amazing how the major and minor scales relate to emotions.
They do, and actually that is how I play. So what I have done internally is kind of create a map of all of the different thoughts and feelings that I have and associate them with a key. And what's interesting is that, there's your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions just kind of flow and they change over time. And the thing is with keys, they also flow and move and change also. And I think there's a direct correlation between those. So for me, that's why it makes sense, is if I hit, like a C minor or a C sharp minor, that feels very, very different than a C, which is nice and happy. So, there's the light side and then there's the dark side to everything, and that's the same in music, is you have all of your 12 bright, happy chords, and then you have 12 melancholy, sort of dark chords. So, like in a scale, the C scale that I just played, you have your 8 notes. Now, if you wanted to play that in a minor key, you drop the third one a half step, and then you drop the 6th and the 7th one a half step as well. And it becomes, which is much different than, and it's just with a slight change too. And then there's another subset of chords which are my favorite, which I think I talked to you about before. It's called like the harmonic minor or the double harmonic major. They kind of sound like they were dug out of the basement of the pyramids, and they're my favorite ones. So, for example, if I was to play a B major scale, okay, that's B major. And if you want a double harmonic major, you drop the 2nd and the 6th a half step, and it becomes, which is a very different feeling.
Very different feeling. It's spooky.
Yeah, it's very spooky. And I will say I spend 90% of my time in those scales.
Yeah.
So just because they invoke, I think, a lot different feeling than what a lot of Western music provides. Because, most Western music is C, G, F, A minor, your typical, 12-bar blues, rock kind of scale, until you get into, the Indian ragas or some of the other Eastern music where they use, very odd time scales and odd time signatures and things like that.
Play that scale again. Yeah, I hear the Indian
Yeah.
reference there.
So it's technically it actually comes from, it's like the Byzantine scale, from Byzantium. Believe it or not, that's the happy version of that scale. There's the sad version of that scale, which is really not that different. So, yeah, stuff like that I have no problem playing, but if you ask me to play structured music, I really do get lost. So.
Well, you're doing what feels right to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what music is about, doing what feels.
Yeah.
What you're feeling.
I definitely think mathematics is one expression of that. There's different ways. Like I said, I kind of equate it to how a wind chime works. Because, you can stand out and listen to the wind and it sounds one way. But if you dangle a bunch of pipes up in the wind, it starts to sound a different way, but it's still the wind. You're just interpreting it different. So that's how I see this, is you're taking that same essence, that same flow, you're just translating it through something else.
I've never heard anybody who was into music who got inspired by wind chimes.
Yeah.
You're unique, young man.
Well, it's interesting because what I did is I took a tuner and I went out to my wind chimes, and the ones that I have are actually engineered for a particular sound. So the ones that I have, they're called Corinthian bells, and they're tuned in a G sharp. So there's 6 pipes.
Did not know that.
Yeah, there's 6 pipes, and each one of them is tuned to a different note inside the G sharp scale.
Okay.
And so I'm
Interesting.
pretty sure, let me see if I remember, but they're one. Yeah. So really, and what's interesting about wind chimes is wind chimes really do flow a lot like jazz does, where there's no direction, the time scales are always changing, but you can listen to it for days and days on end and never hear the same song.
Yeah.
So I would mimic that. And so what I would do is I would, like I said, find a scale and then just only use those keys and make music out of it. And so like for the G sharp scale, we've got, let's see. Oh, yes, bring that right over here.
Thank you, Brian. There you go.
Would you like
Have
this
you got
one?
a place to set that?
This one's broken. Oh. Yeah, so that's the G sharp scale, but
It
that's
sounds
how.
kind of wind chimey.
Yeah, so that's pretty much just how I play music. And it's just those 8 notes, so that's the scale. And I guess now, since you're up here, I could show you how I see it. So if this is the G sharp scale, you can get 8 different chords out of these combinations here. The first one is obviously the G sharp. And so it's 1st, 3rd, and 5th. Now the second one in that sequence is the B flat. So then you would play a B flat chord using only using only these keys. So a B flat would be 1, 2, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that would be this. That would be the second. And then the third, that's a C, so then you'll play a C only with these, and that happens to be a C minor. Oops, nope. So, yeah, that's how I do that. So when I'm working through these patterns, that's all I'm looking for is those patterns and moving in between them. And then to make it easier between the transitions, you know, you can do like an inversion. So you can take this G and you can drop it back here. Because technically this here, that's a C minor because I just moved the G back here. And then if I just raise this a half step, I'm actually right there back at G sharp.
That musical theory stuff gets confusing really fast.
Oh, this is, to me, I could do this all day long. And the thing is about every note in a scale actually is almost like a different feeling or a different emotion.
Yeah.
And you take those and you mix them into interesting combinations. So, you know, if we just do, I always go into a minor key by default. So we've got our G sharp major right here. See, still doing it. So let's see. So the fourth would be a D. So then you have to make a D chord with only these notes. But the problem is, let's say 1, 2. Oh no, there we go. So that's basically just a B flat major. So B flat major. And then you can just make a song using only G sharp major, C minor, and B flat major right there. And then with your melody, then you just move within only those 8 notes while you're doing interesting and unique things in the bass with your left. So like. Always go into a minor, always. So, you know, you could just, and so I'll just do that all day. You know, I have things to do on a Sunday, and I do this.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Okay, let me change the subject just for a second. Because we were talking the other day about printers and what kind of printers to get. Okay, this is completely off the subject. And we were talking printers. I used to be in the graphic arts business. And I was curious why Chris here was so into printers and what they could do. And it turns out that he's into printers because he loves reading and he loves printing out old books and texts and things like that.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yeah. No, I do.
Is that a very good description, or?
I would say, yeah. I've got, I think, over 1,400 books in my library.
Cool.
And rising. So, yeah, a lot of the books, like I just finished a book from 1651. That was pretty good. I have a lot from the late 1800s, early 1900s. Anything after 1950s, not great, but yeah. So a lot of the great classics were written in the 1800s. Some of the more unknown classics in the mid 1500s. So,
Do you consider that a hobby?
with this, yeah, with the amount of money that I spend on books, I would probably have to classify it as a hobby.
Okay.
So, yeah, whatever money I don't spend on bills is definitely on books.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's funny, I have all these piano books and I don't open them because I don't feel like I need them, you know.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I think I overheard the other day you were talking about something that you had been working on hard for the past 2 or 3 weeks.
Is it a research project?
No, music, something on the piano.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just a couple sounds that I really, really enjoy. When I actually the first key that I started learning anything in was G sharp minor, which is why anytime I put my hand on the piano, that's where my hand goes. So I was just playing in G sharp major, but
I would have guessed a C major scale, but that's just me.
C major?
Yeah.
C minor.
Middle C.
C minor.
I only use C minor when I'm playing in the key of E.
Oh, really? In the key of E?
Yeah.
Really?
C sharp minor.
Oh, C sharp minor. Okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, so the thing is, like, music is really interesting. Going back to your question about wind chimes, is I realized that's one of the most natural forms of music. Is you just throw something out in nature and let nature run past it, and it creates music. You know, and so I mean, I don't mind structured music. Like, there's a song that I just finished. It was written in 1888. I can definitely play that one. But it's just
Okay, let's hear it.
You want to hear it?
Sure.
Okay.
What's the name of it?
Gymnopedes.
Gymnopedes.
It's by Eric Satie from 1888.
1888. All right. Yeah, it was a good year.
Yeah, good year. Good year. Good year for housing prices too. Can I get a little more on the monitor, actually? It's a little muffled up here.
Can you get a little more on the monitor, keyboard? More keys in the monitor.
Yeah, a little more on the monitor. Yeah. I'm so used to playing on my my piano. I actually have not touched a digital piano in like a couple months, which I think is probably why I'm having issues. All right, we'll play this, and then I'll talk about my piano later.
you.
Thank you. Thank you, audience.
That sounds pretty soothing.
Yeah, it's not bad. I really wish I could have brought my real piano in here, but it's very heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pianos are heavy, no doubt. Okay. Now, I'm going to throw you another curve.
Okay.
I need to know how you got into chickens.
Oh, supply chain failures.
Okay.
Yeah.
Explain.
Well, obviously, after 2020, we saw that our supply chains are not very reliable in times of stress. And I actually used to work in supply chain logistics, so seeing how much food goes out every single day just to keep the train rolling got me thinking about just having a backup. So I decided to get chickens. Convinced my landlord to do it, and then basically through books and YouTube just kind of taught myself. The same way I did with piano. I just brought the birds home and gave them shelter, food,
How long
water.
ago was that?
This is the third season, so I think that was March of 2023.
Yeah.
Yeah, March of 2023. So it's really interesting. It's very intuitive. Actually, a lot like piano, believe it or not, taking care of animals. I've had 7 chickens for the last 3 years. Just got 2 new ones. Haven't had a whole lot of issues. Fresh supply of eggs. A lot of it really, I think, because the world is so different nowadays, people are looking to do things differently.
Sure.
Whether it's through music or whether, alternative ways of living, different ways of getting food. I'm trying to get to the point where I grow most of my own food. I've got a massive garden out there. I almost did it last year, pretty much all throughout the spring. Didn't really have to go to the grocery store for any vegetables or, really anything. So
That is really admirable.
Oh, thank you.
Because it's not easy, number one.
No, it's not. I lost 10 pounds. So
Well, so there's a benefit to that, I suppose. But
yeah.
I watch YouTube every day and I see all these potential tragedies and stuff that can go wrong, and then our comfortable little world comes crashing down at some point.
Yeah.
But, what a great way to be prepared. I like that.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I originally got the digital piano, and I only had a digital piano for the first 3 years. I'd never touched a real one for 3 years. And then I was in a thrift store one day. I was actually the Goodwill down off of, Fairview, and saw this old rickety thing that looked like it had been dug out of the bottom of the Titanic sitting in the corner. So I sat down and, all the ivory's chipped and it's got scratches and gouges and stuff in it. It was a little bit out of tune, but I started playing it, and no offense, but I'll never go back to a digital piano, ever. Turns out the piano that I bought was from 1912. So it's pre-communist, which is great. So it's high quality. It sounds great. I had a professional guy come out and tune it, give it a pitch raise, clean it. And I bought it for $35.
$35.
$35. I bought a 113-year-old piano in surprisingly remarkable condition. So
that is amazing.
Yeah, and so when you open up the top, it still has all of the patent numbers from 1875, like all of the original, like that late 1800s, early 1900s gold sheen, that very warm look. So all of the original lettering and everything is on there, which is why I like, trying to play a lot of songs from the 1800s, like the Beethoven or Ravel or Tchaikovsky.
Did the wood need to be redone?
No, I didn't touch it. I just left it the way it was. Actually, this is the bench. So the bench I'm sitting on is actually the 113-year-old piano bench. It's all the original stain, and I think I'm just going to leave it that way, just
Good
because
choice.
I think things that were made in the at least in the 1900s compared to today, were made to last, and they were made for a purpose.
They were.
And they weren't made out of any kind of expediency or anything like that. So, yeah, I really just enjoy playing it. It's got a very warm sound.
Cool.
So, yeah.
So I'm wondering, well, we've covered the piano and the music theory.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about books and chickens. What did I miss? Anything?
Not much. I think the dog has probably been my biggest audience for the last 5 years. He's heard everything I've ever written. So,
Well, is he like my dog? When I start playing the acoustic guitar, he just curls up pretty close and stays there.
he tries. I mean, he's 110 pounds, so he kind of just sits outside by the garage. But yeah.
Dogs like music.
No, they really do. Yeah, they really do. And I hope he likes mine.
I always put on some background music for my dog when I leave the house.
Yeah, same here.
Soothing kind of stuff, and he seems to enjoy it. So, okay, so right now I want to open up questions to the audience.
Or just say a letter between A and G, and I'll play in it.
Do you listen to rock and roll or just classical?
You know, I used to live and die.
Before you answer that, because we can't hear him, I just want to say that what Bill asked was, do you listen to rock and roll or just classical only?
You know, it's interesting because if you were to take all of the classic rock out there and play it on a piano, it would sound a lot like Beethoven or Tchaikovsky. And I think that's why they call it classic rock, is because it's basically just classic music in like drop D tuning. And originally I was really attracted to a lot of the 70s rock, especially Judas Priest. I've got 7 or 8 of their original vinyls. I mean, what I would like to do eventually, I mean, it's going to take a long time, but is do a lot of the original Judas Priest songs, you know, like K.K. Downing and Glenn Tipton, and do it on piano. But it might set the piano on fire, I don't know. But no, Judas Priest, and like, you know, 90s, Soundgarden, Rush. I listened to a lot of that in my early 20s, but I'll be honest, after 30, it's either silence, the piano, or classical. So I really don't. Or actually, there's a lot of Eastern music that I dug up from the different pockets of the world that I listen to every once in a while, but it's kind of seldom.
I always felt that that's what the Beatles did. They took rock and roll music and they injected a classical style into it.
No, they really did, and that was because of Ravi Shankar. Ravi Shankar, I think it was George Harrison. He taught him how to play the sitar, introduced him to the sitar. If you're familiar with Nora Jones, any of Nora Jones's music, that's the daughter of Ravi Shankar. Probably, they say he's the best sitar player. I'm going to argue that, but I know some other sitar players that I'd much rather listen to. But I've got a lot of Ravi stuff on vinyl. But it's interesting, the Indian time scales, because their music, the ragas, start out very slow. Really slow, and then over the course of like sometimes 15, 30, 45 minutes they speed up, but they all are focused around a central theme, like a central tone or a tune, or, you know, just like a little something like that.
Sounds Indian to me.
Yeah, so actually what I did for a long time is, because I don't have a sitar and I don't have any Indian music instruments, I just tried to recreate what I was hearing but on the piano. And so that's where a lot of, you know, also like playing like jazz, wind chimes, and taking Eastern instruments, that's kind of like the trifecta confluence of how I try to arrange things here.
Cool.
So, yeah. No, I really enjoy. I don't listen to a lot of modern pop music because a lot of it is just, I mean, it's just C, G, F, A minor to make things a little, you know, whatever. But no offense, but it's just, to me, after a while, you hear the same things recycled over and over and over again. So, like I'm a very non-traditional person. Most people that know me know that. And so I just took piano and tried to do it in the most non-conventional, non-traditional way possible. Not on purpose, that's just how I am. By taking sounds from other things and forcing the piano to make those sounds.
It sounds to me like your brain requires stimulation.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually going back to the books thing for a long time, everybody has a smartphone and they're always scrolling. And I realized it was having an effect on my memory, my sleep, ability to concentrate, my outlook on life. So in 2020, when I picked up the piano, I also got rid of my smartphone. I got a flip phone. And I had, it was 2007, went and got a flip phone and just used that. I used to travel across country for work, and it had a little mobile hotspot on it. And I got from Idaho to Texas to Michigan, North Dakota, Colorado, all around with nothing but a flip phone and a paper map. Mm-hmm. So, and a lot of it was just trying to retrain my brain on doing, what is now considered difficult things. And then also the same with piano. I'll practice the same thing over and over and over again for weeks and weeks on end until it becomes normal, and then I'll move to something else. Mm-hmm. So my neighbors know that. She left, no surprise. But they'll hear the same song over and over and over again for 6 weeks straight.
Yeah.
Or the same key.
You mentioned you're using this flip phone for your day job. Mm-hmm. Speaking of day jobs, what is your day job?
I am a superintendent for a small construction company. That's Braxton over there. Braxton works for me. He's a great guy. It's a really small company.
Local?
Yeah, very, very local. I was working for General Electric for a very brief period of time in 2020, but I ended up leaving that job. Left a bunch of money, bunch of upward mobility in favor of a simple job, quiet life, and decided to pick up the piano instead. So.
Interesting.
Yeah, so.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Chris McIntire.
Thanks. If you don't mind, I'm just gonna.
Go ahead.
Like playing structured music, it is like pulling teeth for me.
Okay.
So I, if anybody has a favorite key, or a favorite mood or something, I'll just kind of. F? Like a happy F or a sad F? Happy F? Okay.
Okay, here we go. Happy F.
I can include a happy F, but I'm going to do... F will be in it. How about that? No. Well, this is D. That's D. Yeah. I'm not really in that kind of feeling something else though. Yeah, we'll do that. That's fine. Let's see. If I'm gonna do F, then we'll do. I'm just trying to get my bearings here. Okay, I'm no longer taking requests. We're gonna do this. Sorry. Thank you. All right, I lost track of time there. So,
Thank you guys for tuning in to Boise Backstories. Have a great night. See you next time. Chris McIntire
that was
right
really
here.
quick. Wow.